Welcome to Coffee with Jenny B. It's about conversations over coffee. It's about connections, community, what brings me joy, and everything in between. I'm your host, Jenny Sackleback. When I'm feeling overwhelmed and stressed, busy work life, busy home life, just life in general, I find that yoga can help me relax and really feel more calm and centered and get rid of some of that anxiety. Now, my favorite way of doing yoga is hatha yoga, and that is where you are slowing down and stretching and really holding those pauses and poses. But another way that yoga is so important for me is the breath, because most of us breathe here, but many of us don't breathe through our belly and our diaphragm. And so with yoga, it's breathing in through your nose and exhaling through your nose. Already, I can feel a sense of peace and calmness, and it settles down my nervous system. My special guest today is Swati Gaur, who is going to share her journey with yoga. But before we get into that, Swati is going to demonstrate how we can really take in those deep, cleansing, calming breaths and offer some sound to help us with that. Swati, please go ahead.
Yeah, so I would say just take a deep breath in, Jenny, as you mentioned, and gently close your eyes here. Stay in the moment. Feel your breath. And now take your awareness to the sound of the bell. Taking another deep breath in and gently exhale through your mouth, releasing the stress, the anxiety. And whenever ready, just open up your eyes. How does it feel?
Feels so relaxing.
Thank you so much.
I love the idea of the sound because it's taking the focus away from that squirrel that lives in our head and focusing on our breath and also focusing on the sound of the bell. That was so lovely.
Yeah, so that's how I begin my classes with. If I'm not doing or using any instruments, my classes are always begin with chanting Om. And that has been proving scientifically that Om is the most powerful sound in the universe. Yeah.
And why is that?
It's just that because even you're trying for people in today's generation, in today's world, even when they close their eyes, their mind is not shutting down. They're not able to shut that mind down. So when I start my yoga classes, I just ask them to come into a comfortable seated position, taking few deep breaths in and out, closing their eyes so that they can disconnect themselves from the outside world and can look inside. And when they chant Om, when we chant Om, the humming sound that it creates vibrates inside your body. Your whole awareness goes into that, shutting yourself from the outer thoughts or anything coming in your mind. It doesn't come. Like there are member students who have come to me when I was like, there are some days when I'm like, okay, going into the poses or breathwork. And at the end, they were like, we missed chanting Om. Can you please do it from the next time? Like, okay, I was making sure because they say, they're coming, like there are students, there are teachers who are coming into the class, they're stepping into the class with so many thoughts in their mind. Mm-hmm. So how to begin a class with when they already have so many things? So that's why when they chant Om, the vibration, the humming sound helps them to cut the outside voices, noises, and really connect with themselves deeper.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I felt the same way. I mean, we didn't chant Om, but even just with my eyes shut and concentrating on the bell. So you're telling us that concentrate on the bell, hear the sound. And so I'm waiting to hear the sound, and then I hear it. And I'm not sure when you were going to stop, but it's like I'm waiting, and then your guidance in terms of, okay, now when you're ready, open your eyes, and now I'm ready to come back into that consciousness, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yes.
And that is what yoga is all about. That's only one part, few pieces that we discuss or that we see. But to me, yoga is a way of living. So, and that's what I'm trying to cultivate into my life. Day by day, I'm practicing whatever I can so that I can build that life of being yoga, because it can really help you to stay grounded and stay humble.
Yeah.
And most pick up any name who are like big in any industry and ask them, they always sit back and meditate and relax and practice their breath expansion, their breath control. They try to control their breath, their mind, because if they do not have control on themselves, they cannot do what they want to do, or they cannot run on the path towards their goal. In these days, we have been controlled by technologies. Like, you might have experience, you open up your phone to do something else, but then something comes in, you go on social media or wherever you're interested, and like there are some people who ends up scrolling for like 30 minutes, more than 30 minutes, and then they realize, oh, I actually opened my phone to do something else, but then I am
distracted,
or I'm just so... Yoga helps us to keep our control on ourselves and not giving the control in others people's hand or the technology or other thing. I'm not against those technologies. They're really helpful, but that should not take our mind over.
I agree.
Yeah.
Now, you talk about the breath and how, the breath is so important for us. And I had mentioned doing poses. So for me, though, because when I have to do the tree pose, and so for those that don't know what the tree pose is basically your arms up and you're bringing your leg either to your knee, which of course I can't do it, but wherever you're doing, and you have to stand tall and firm like a tree. Well, I feel sometimes like I'm a toppling tree, because I don't have that balance, and it doesn't matter how much weight I put into my standing leg. So what can help me with those poses? And I mean, not doing it perfectly, but just so that I'm not toppling over.
Okay. So first of all, why we do balancing poses? The goal of doing those physical balancing poses is not to just bring balance in that pose. As you said, Hatha Yoga. Hatha Yoga is all about balancing your left and your right, your yin and your yang. So when we do the balance poses, you must have experienced that we not just do it from one side, we do it from both the sides so that we can balance that. And when we practice those balance poses, that brings balance in our life, in our mind. Mm-hmm. That's why we do it. So for the beginners who have just started practicing those balancing poses, I say go take a support of the wall. Take support of anything that you could. Even in your life, when you're walking, you take support from your friends, from your mentor. That's also the goal. Once you become individual, or you can achieve that pose by yourself, before that you can just practice with something, with the support. And then start taking few deep breaths in and out. And maybe you might not be even knowing that in your consciousness, you will start releasing your hand from that support and trying to stay still in that pose. So that's my tip for those beginners who are trying to do the balancing poses, is to take a support, go into it, take some few deep breaths in and out, close your eyes, and just see how your body is weighing on that one foot.
Okay.
Yeah. And when you start practicing that, it naturally, after some practice, comes to you. And then that brings balance in your life, in your mind, in your physical body. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. And so it's not about perfection, because it's not about me checking everybody else. It's like, oh, well, everybody else can do it, and how come I can't do it? So I shouldn't matter what anybody else is doing. It's more about what I'm doing. So it's not a competition. And it's not even a competition within myself. It's like, oh, well, I could do it last week, but I can't do it this week. So what's going on? But it's really about the process, maybe, the process and the practice of doing it, isn't it?
Exactly. Like, the thing that you mentioned, like comparing yourself to others or maybe yourself. Oh, we are different bodies every day. Like sometime when I wake up, I feel I can do a split. Sometime after practicing for 15 minutes too, I cannot do a split. So, but I'm not comparing myself from my past or my days where I could do it, but it's just showing up that you're practicing. You still have that faith in yourself, or you're believing in yourself, or you're trusting yourself to go and do practice. So never compare yourself, because everybody is different, and even you yourself is little different every day. Accept it, but just show up. Consistency is the key. That's I always say. And I'm also promoting that on my page. You might have seen it, that I'm doing 90 days everyday yoga challenge. So some days where I cannot go into a physical pose or physical poses practice, I just go sit back, and 30 minutes of meditation do wonders, sometimes more than the poses.
And so I like that idea that it's not about the poses, that you don't actually have to do it. And just sitting and closing your eyes and just breathing, and even maybe just saying Om yourself, or having quiet. And I think, speaking for myself, sometimes I feel not nervous, but it's almost like I don't want to sit in quiet, because then I've got all these thoughts in my head, and I'm trying to, when they say meditation, it's like you clear your mind. Well, that's impossible to clear your mind, because thoughts are coming into it. So it's almost as if we see the thoughts coming in and notice that they're there, and then just let them gently go away. But using the breath can help us do that.
Yes. So here I would like to bring the concept or the meaning of yoga that I use in my life, or I try to incorporate in my life, is yes, the big part of yoga is the poses that we practice. The other, which people are aware of, is pranayama, which is breath expansion or breath control. And third is meditation, that everybody knows, okay, we should meditate. But yoga is built upon 8 limbs. The meditation part is the second last part of it.
Oh.
The breath work is the 5th part of it. So if I'll start talking about it from the very beginning, the very first one, the very first limb is yam. Yam means the social behavior or the universal guidelines that you should follow. For an example, not stealing, non-violence. And non-violence doesn't mean you're going to kill anybody, but non-violence through your word.
Oh,
right? You're not hurting anybody.
Right.
Not stealing doesn't mean that you're going out and stealing some money or some materialistic thing. It's also about not stealing anybody's time without their
permission.
Ah, okay. So you're asking if you have time to talk for those 10 minutes. So then second, those are the social behavior rules that few of them I discussed. The second is niyam, which is self-discipline or self-study.
Okay.
In that we follow to stay clean, not just by the body. And again, like we take bath every day, but then how do you clean yourself from inside? How do you keep your energies clean?
Right.
So yamas talk about the self-study, the self-rules that we should follow. The third one comes to asana, which everybody sees, the physical poses that we practice. And why we practice that physical poses is to bring our mind and our brain to become quiet when we go and analyze each poses. It's not like you're lifting the weights, increasing the weight in your hands.
Right.
If you're going into a pose, you close your eyes and you feel like, is your spine straight? Is your mind is into the pose? Is your leg angled correctly? Those are the physical poses that we do follow in classes, yoga classes. The fourth one comes, as you mentioned, is pranayama, that is breath expansion or breath control. What pranayama does is, these days we are so busy in our day-to-day life. Do you sit back and just take your awareness back in your breath? That's how you are living. If your breath is stopped, you won't be able to, you're dead, right?
That's true, yeah.
So if you'll just start by 5 minutes, 10 minutes, closing the eyes, taking the awareness on your inhale, your exhale, and the third important pause that everybody ignores is holding the pause. The pause in between your inhale and exhale.
Okay.
We call it rechak, we call it kumbhak in Sanskrit, which means holding it. So you inhale and then you hold softly. You don't have to force it too much. And then exhale. And then hold it there for a few more seconds. And you'll feel the difference of this holding the breath, because that's how you try to control your emotions and your breath. And then the fourth one comes as dharana, which is how you see the outer world, right? Then comes dhyana, the meditation part. And dhyana is basically, as you were saying, there are some days when you cannot close your eyes or shut down your mind. Dhyana means picking up an object. It is basically a practice to go into meditation before you do into meditation. Picking up any object and then fixing your gaze on that object.
Okay, so if I'm sitting here and staring at my mug.
Yeah, we tell us to keep it on your level, on your eye level, so that you're not bending your head or spine, and just picking up a point or anything and just concentrating on that.
Okay, so if I'm concentrating on my mug, I'm not thinking about, you know, I forgot to, go buy groceries or something.
Yeah. This is just a step to go into meditation. And then come the meditation part.
Yeah.
And then come the last is samadhi. That's the eighth limb of yoga, which means enlightenment.
So if you're going through all of the 8, you finally get to that point of enlightenment.
Yes, enlightenment, the bliss of
the connection
yoga.
with yourself.
Exactly. So all these steps that we follow is ultimately to get that enlightenment and bliss with yourself in your body, and you're not dependent on anybody, you're not looking to anybody for your own happiness, and you are blissed, you are happy, you are enlightened in yourself. That's how I see yoga, those through 8 limbs, and I try to incorporate those into my lives.
You know, it's interesting you mentioned about the pause, because I know that sometimes when you come across a situation that can be emotionally charged, whether somebody says something to you, perhaps your immediate response might be to be angry or to lash out, is taking that pause to think about, okay, do I need to say anything? Do I need to actually do anything? Or if I do need to say something, it gives me that moment to bring my thoughts together and actually even take a couple of cleansing breaths and then decide what I'm going to do with it. Because if I don't pause, then I'm saying things that maybe in anger that I don't mean to say, and sometimes you can't take those words back. So by incorporating the pause and not even thinking about it as part of the 8 limbs of yoga, just that it's something that gives you that moment to collect your thoughts and even your breath to say, okay, what do I need to do in this moment?
Yes. Yeah. That's correct. And that's a very good example, because, sometimes your words are not appropriate for others and you can harm or hurt them through your words. So it's always recommended or suggested to take a pause before whatever you say.
I know, yeah. Now, what if I don't have time for yoga? I mean, I like to do my yoga on Sundays because I'm busy during the week. But what if I don't have any time? What if I want to do it, but how do I fit in? I mean, I can't do an hour every day of yoga. So what can you recommend in terms of, should we do something first thing in the morning? Is it in the evening? Is there a certain time that we should be doing it? And what can we do, say, if I've only got 5-10 minutes, what can I do within that time?
I would say morning is one of the best times so that you can set up an example for yourself and lead through the day. There are definitely few poses which can actually leave you feeling refreshed and ready for the day. And you don't need a fancy yoga mat for it. You don't need a yoga studio to go into. You just need you. And maybe I prefer to go sit on the ground. But even if that's not available, like anywhere you're sitting and you can do those few poses, I always say, like, just comfortably coming into any seated poses. I always recommend keeping your palms towards the sky.
Okay.
That's just a way that you're ready to get and attract those positive energies. And then again, we always want to start with slowing down our breath and slowing down our mind. When we slow down the breath, our mind automatically starts slowing down.
Okay.
So just close your eye, then begin with taking few deep breaths in and out. Slowly taking hold of your awareness on your breath. After you take a few deep breaths in and out, gently, you can just start moving your spine side to side, bringing the awareness and taking the awareness to your movements now. You can start making circles, going back and forth, going clockwise, anti-clockwise, and gently coming back to your seated position. And now you can take your hands back towards your thighs, palms in. And people know about cat and cow pose, but you can do it in a seated position too. What you have to do is just that inhale in, open up your chest, roll your shoulders back, take your gaze up. Exhale, bring your hands forward, curl your shoulders and take your chin to the chest. Few more times, inhale in. And exhale. Make that curve in the spine, let the stress go. One more time, inhale in. Exhale, squeeze in. So that's one thing that can be done for your spine. Spine is your age. If you go read science or in your yoga philosophy too, it says the age is represented by your spine, how strong your spine is. So it's really, really important to move your spine daily. And cat and cow is one of the best to move your spine. The second I say, like, we are always on the phone or working on computer or laptops, so people have very stiff necks or any other issues, what do we call them, who have pain, like a stiffness in their neck all the time. So I always say neck rotation do wonders with your neck releasing tension and also with your mind.
Okay.
Again, include your breath. Like in seated in cat and cow flow too, when we open, we inhale in big to fill the chest. And when we exhale, we squeeze in. That same goes with your neck movements and neck rotations too. So when you inhale in, lift your head, your chin up. And exhale to bend your heads forward.
Oh my gosh.
Inhale to lift your head up. Exhale to bend it forward. And now from here, we'll begin the rotation. Start inhaling in and moving your head in one side. And as slow as you can, as gentle you can with your step. And for the half circle, for the remaining, you exhale to bring your neck forward again. We'll do one more round, anti-clockwise, starting from the other side. Inhaling in for the half circle. And then exhale for the other half. Exhale fully. And then inhale in to gently come back.
Oh my gosh, that feels so good. Even just those small little movements, even just the 3 cat-cows that we were doing.
Yeah.
You can do that anywhere. It doesn't matter. And same thing with the neck, because I find, I'm always leaning forward, so I'm very stiff in here.
Yeah.
But that gentle movement, and again, it's not rushed. It's taking it at your own pace.
Yes.
And that took, less than 5 minutes?
Yeah. I've seen people doing neck rotations and yoga classes like this. No awareness, right?
Well, and the thing is anytime you do anything quickly, you run the risk of possibly injuring yourself.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And like in Hatha, so I am a certified in Hatha and Ashtanga yoga. Both are about physical poses, but in Hatha, we go as slow as we can and we hold the poses for longer duration.
Mm-hmm.
So doing those neck rotation with your closed eyes, unless and until you feel dizziness, you try to keep it as slow as you can, like not rushing at all to see what wonders it can do. Not to just release that stress, but also with your mind. You'll experience that for sure.
And also, too, when you're paying attention, because I know that I've been told that the right side is masculine and the left side is feminine.
Yes.
So then when you're doing regardless of what poses you're doing or even the neck rotation, you're paying attention, you're thinking, okay, so how does it feel on one side versus the other? So if one side is feeling weaker, so let's say my left side is feeling weaker, that means that maybe I need to spend a little bit more attention and time on my left side so that there's that balance between the two.
Yes, exactly. I always call it sun and moon energy. When I take my morning yoga classes, at the end, when you are laying down in Shavasana, and when I instruct them to come back, if it's during the day, I always tell them to take their left body, pressing it down, and right exposed to the sun. Because you're ready to take that sun and solar energy to your body. When I'm teaching during the evenings, I always tell them to turn on their pressing the right side in and activating the left side so that they can get energy from the moon, which is feminine energy. So even if you want to go to your bed and struggling sleeping, there are two things which I mentioned. So the third pose is what I can recommend is like people who struggle to sleep, child pose. Have you?
Oh, yes, I love the child pose. It's my
So
favorite.
it's like you go and sit into your Vajrasana or Thunderbolt pose, bending your knees, sitting on your heels, and then resting your heads down like this. Like surrendering yourself, surrendering your upper body, not holding anything too tight, and let that blood circulate in your mind. And then whenever you'll go back to sleep, you'll be those off.
And then try that.
Yeah, definitely. That does wonder. And sitting in Vajrasana or Thunderbolt pose is only one yoga pose that can be done after meals too, because that strengthens your abdomen and muscles and really strong your digestion and digestive issues too. So you can always, after your meal, you can go and sit into that. And then when you're about to sleep, just surrender yourself. It's also like surrendering yourself to your higher power, higher energy, whatever you have belief into. If you're spiritually connected, could be your God. If you believe in some other energies, surrendering yourself at the end of the day into child pose and let him or her take care of it.
I love that.
Yeah, and then or when you go to bed, you can expose your left side
to the moon
to grab that feminine energy or the moon energy. That will actually make you feel difference in your life.
Oh my gosh. And you know what? I've learned something new today because I didn't realize, well, I mean, I always feel better when I do the child pose, but thinking, okay, if I'm struggling to sleep or just struggling in general, like if I'm feeling anxious, okay, down on the ground in the child's pose or after a meal. I mean, you're right, because then you're working your inner self, or you're working that digestion. Very interesting.
And that can be done on your bed too. If you're too lazy to take a step doing it
on the floor,
just do it on your bed.
Okay, that's wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Swati, for being here and sharing your journey with yoga and giving us a lot of really good information about what we can do to calm ourselves and the importance of, first of all, the 8 limbs, but then also really channeling the breath and finding that enlightenment.
Yeah, I hope that everyone gets something benefit out of this conversation that we had. And I really appreciate you for inviting me and talking about yoga. I feel maybe blessed or privileged enough because that is one thing that I'm promoting. Like, I want people to adopt that life, to adopt that culture. My current goal is to take that into corporates because people are into so much rush sitting in their offices. I'm like, they should have 10 minutes, 15 minutes during their day or maybe once in a week so that they can feel relaxed. That's the ultimate goal I have right now for my life, or to take, or giving back to the community, as you mentioned, right?
Absolutely.
So I'm always there to give back to community in any way I could. And I hope this helps to reach out as much as people can.
And I know it will, and I know that people will take from it what they need. And as I mentioned, I've learned something new about it as well. So thank you again for being here.
You're most welcome. Namaste, everyone.
Namaste. So this has been Coffee with Jenny B, conversations over coffee, community and connections with the Multicultural channel. I'm your host, Jenny Sakovac.